Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to adfartech Venture podcast, and I'm the host of the show, Shonal Sa, welcoming you all. And it's our today's great, pleasureful morning to welcome our today's guest, Mr. Agostino Carrideo. So, Agostino is a renowned expert and the founder of vendor management experts with over 25 years of hands-on experience. And the most interesting thing is he is not only a trusted advisor to many top organizations, but he is also the number one Amazon best-selling author in his field. So, in addition to his professional achievements, Agostino is a passionate biohacking advocate and a high performer mentor dedicated to optimizing human potential and performance also. So he is the founder of Vendor Management Experts and Vendor Management Collective communities that bring together industry professionals to share the knowledge and drive innovations in the vendor management. So today we are very fortunate to have Agostino for his valuable expertise and insights with us. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Agostino Carrideo. And thank you so much for bringing this to us. And thank you so much, sir, for, giving us your time, your opportunity to collaborate for this wonderful knowledge sharing platform. Welcoming you, sir, on behalf of adfartech Venture podcast. And I wish this podcast will going to be, the good things to learn from yourself as well as from your expertise. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, Sunil, and for ADFA to contribute to this podcast. I look forward to the next few minutes to talk about experience and what I can bestow on your community to understand vendor management and the little differentials I bring to make it more strategic and to simplify what it all is.
That's so great of you. That's so great of you, sir. Thank you so much. So, sir, before we begin, I would like to ask you my first and foremost questions that if you permit me to introduce my organizations and then we will move ahead. So, can I?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, quick word, if I say about adfartech Venture is we are IT and tech platform service provider and we provide almost all the kinds of solutions, resources, recruitments, and this kind of IT tech podcast too. And we have a vendor alliances with the 50 plus tech partners, including SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, Pega, OutSystems, APN, Cloudera, then Informatica, Salesforce, and many such more too. And if I say about the solutions that we provide, all the types of solutions, it includes ERP, then application development and data and AI, ML, blockchain, cloud managed services, then UX, UI, testing, and the cybersecurity too. And the major skills which we have is we have a 20,000 plus resources all across the skills. So we can deliver both on-site and offshore within the 24 hours all across the world. So that's a major capability we have. And at ADFA, with this podcast, we likes to hear views of visionary tech leaders. So we can serve them the better, we can learn from their journey, we can learn from their latest tech innovations and other valuable insights, trends, and experiences. So this is all about adfartech Venture podcast. And with this today's podcast, we aims to get so much insights from vendor management and from your expertise till date from your journey. So this is all about adfartech Venture. And thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to have a word with you in regards to your experience and expertise. So this is all about me and my organizations. Now, please, I would like to also ask you how you have traveled this journey and what's your experience till date from beginning. So can you share your journey also?
Yes, of course. No. So a lot of people sometimes get confused around am I a technologist or am I in procurement, because I tend to work in two very different business functions. Either a CPO is hiring me to help them with strategic sourcing or supplier relationship management, or a CIO who might be hiring me to help them with overall vendor management, which includes the full life cycle management onboarding, contracting, and performance management. But my heart lies as a technologist. I hold a master's degree in information management and systems from Monash University in Melbourne and a graduate diploma in business technology. So for me, I like to align myself with technology. I've held board positions with the Australian Computer Society, which is the Australian professional body to represent the technology industry. And I implemented a successful mentoring program for ACS members. So I'm a technologist. I started, in 2000, vendor management was key for Y2K for that program. So I cut my teeth with IBM, which was wonderful. I then led IT vendor relations for Australia for KPMG. I've had a few large roles as a director of Capgemini for a short period and led and built vendor management functions across utilities, aviation, and insurance and finance industries in Australia. So I have more than 25 years in leading that. As you said earlier, in 2015, I wrote a book and I just basically called out that great culture empowers great vendor management. I've been a freelance consultant for most of my career, and I just reflected on what I'd found where organizations had built true, trusted, and collaborative relationships. And what was quite apparent to me was where I could influence cultural alignment. A lot of my career has been in bringing Indian outsourcing or Indian capability into the Australian market and bringing people together. Sometimes I think it's my Italian heritage and the sense of family and trust that I build that with my Indian counterparts, because it's very much an aligned cultural fit. And I try to emphasize and try to give my Indian counterparts and colleagues and vendors the opportunity to show their expertise in the way that they would normally feel comfortable in doing that. So that you need a bit of time to try to slow down relationships. So that's a bit about myself. So I'm a bit of a freelancer, but I'm always looking to contribute and to help people grow closer and to deliver.
That's so great to you, sir. Thank you so much for these wonderful introductions. And from your word itself, I can, travel from your journey to, it's very interesting and very insightful that you have, a very good career across the 25 years of the most precious year, I can say. So very wonderful introductions you have provided, sir. Thank you so much. So this is all about me and you. So it's a great collaborations today we are doing for the society. So thank you so much again for joining this podcast. So now before we begin with the question and answer sessions, I will take one more seconds to thank our audience also, because of their curiosity, we are running these episodes with so much knowledge as well as interesting things to know about the tech trends. So dear audience, thank you so much for, giving us this much of, I can say, a love with the views and downloads. And the also inquiries from the different people that we want to listen from these. So your curiosity makes us running of this podcast, and that's making us very grateful for the people, those who are sharing their expertise with us. Thank you so much, audience. So now, sir, if you permit, we can start with the question and answer.
Sure.
That's great. Thank you so much. So my first question goes to your experience in the vendor management itself. So as you had said that you have more than 25 years of experience. So how do you ensure that your strategies and insights remain relevant and effective after 25 years also in today's fast evolving technology landscape?
So now I think the first important aspect of staying current, and it is a fast evolving technology landscape, is to continue to invest in market research. And what I mean by that is to allocate a couple hours out of your 40-hour week to step away from the doing and to research and study best case studies, to aligning yourself with what is happening all around the world, just not in your backyard, but at the same time to also understand what's happening locally against regulated industries and the different laws and changes that are upcoming. So being ahead of the curve. I think the other part of that market research is understanding which technology providers are either entering the market or maturing their platforms that help with vendor and contract lifecycle management. I'm a people person, Sunil, so I think networking and building strategic partnerships is very, very key. I think there's an opportunity to sometimes share lessons from the vendor community into myself that I can bring that into potential clients or past clients or just into the community in general. So they're the 4 steps: market research, investing time, technology adoption, understanding what is out there and how to bring that into organizations to simplify how they manage suppliers. The networking being first and foremost on LinkedIn, contribute well. Over to you.
Great. And the specifically for the current days, the usage of social media is widely spread, and it gives you a lot more insights about the communities as well as the needs of the clients or a customer, whatever you pronounce it. So that's a great approach, and specifically the forward-thinking mindset that is the key to your sustained success, if I say in a summarization.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, sir, what are the top 3 qualities or the skills you believe essential for a successful vendor management in today's business environment?
What I really believe, Sunil, is sometimes I find vendor management can become a little transactional. People are running and they're not really thinking. So I think strategic thinking is something that people need to invest in, and what really is strategic thinking. And for it to be strategic, you need to have good stakeholder management, understand the roadmap and architectural roadmaps and demands that the business in general is facing. And then being able to relay that strategically to your vendors and to your strategic vendors for them to allow them the time to respond. The other key quality that's really important is relationship management, the soft skills around working with third parties and internal senior and not so senior stakeholders. So being able not to bring friction, but being able to open up good dialogue and being able to grow a relationship within the boundaries of vendor management in general. So communication is key, and like I said earlier, cultural alignment. There's a third one, a quality that I believe when I'm hiring that I look for, and that's where individuals have worked for a vendor in delivering a product or service. Even better, so now where they may have even been in a sales position, giving the individual a unique quality that they can appreciate the sales process that their account manager is working within. Having had pressures of quarterly forecasting, numbers, reporting in line, and being able to appreciate that will help them communicate and grow a trusted relationship. Whereas a lot of people lack that quality. And so it's just they're in their own vacuum and do not support or assist what the vendors going through, the stress that they might be feeling on the inside as they try to deliver for them. So they're the 3 key qualities I think that are key in today's business environment.
Great. And thank you for highlighting these essential qualities as well as skills. So it gives me an idea about, I can say, your extensive experience has evolved with the deep understanding of what it takes to excel in this field, right? That's so wonderful to know about. So, as a vendor management experts offer, different types of pragmatic tailored services. So, can you share a case study or a kind of examples where these approach delivered significant value for a client?
Yeah, I've got a couple. So I'll talk to 2. Recently I was working with National Australia Bank, one of the preeminent financial banks in the country. And we were in the middle of, I won't mention the name of the SaaS provider, but we had a large international SaaS provider we were working with that was providing a platform to our service management team or function. we had an issue where the platform had to move from being on-prem to cloud because of licensing requirements. However, internal functions that were consuming this platform were actually not paying for it. So the service management function inside technology bore all the cost. So I had to drive stakeholder engagement across numerous large technology functions to make them understand that for all the benefits, there had to be contribution and that they had to do some budgeting. So there was finance, there was risk. I actually played a very broader role beyond strategic sourcing that the role was in to bring some of the benefits truly across to the individuals where the service management function were floundering. And that's because they weren't commercial. They were just platform owners, right? The other example I can share was with Asahi. I was engaged on an 8-week engagement to help them set up quarterly business reviews with their 5 top technology providers in Australia. And so what I did to bring some sense into how to run those quarterly business reviews, I ran what I called dry runs, mock runs of a governance meeting. So there were operational account meetings. So I ran an account management meeting. And so now what I showed all the vendors and the stakeholders how to craft their communication and disseminate information. So telco that was providing services, they came along. They had a 30-slide deck. The slides were, there was no white on the slide, it was consumed with information, way too much information, went too long. And I could demonstrate in that dry run, Sunil, how the executives had, within 10 minutes, had basically stepped out of the meeting in their mindset. And what I meant by that, they were all on their phones, all responding to Slack and to Teams and to emails, and they were not engaged in the conversation. So that was more around an alignment on how to keep people engaged. And sometimes people are scared to tell their provider. They've just come along to tick the box because I've sat in a quarterly business review. You know, I demonstrated how operational issues started becoming an issue and conversation in this dry mock run. It was an account management meeting, which was a strategic meeting. And so, again, you know, once you showed people not where it was a true QBR, but a mock QBR, it gave them the opportunity to practice on what information had to be delivered, what was boundaries on what could be said and not be said, what was to keep on the agenda, and to, basically drive the right conversation to get the right benefits. So when you come to the next quarterly QBR, actual actions had been owned, had been effected, and if there was anything else, done. So that's kind of where I sometimes step out of the box to educate and mentor, or organizations have 3 years of success, not to sit back after a month and say, we didn't get anything out of the QBRs and everyone's pointing fingers at each other. So they're 2 examples of where I delivered, I think, unique value to my clients.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. And we appreciate, other than the technology, your dedications to provide the practical as well as effective solutions. I can say that from your response. So thank you so much for providing the highlights on the importance of hands-on vendor management expertise. That's a wonderful experience you have shared with this different case studies. So my next question goes to, with the rise of technology as well as digital transformations, how has vendor management evolved, especially in the context of technology sourcing?
Well, the number one challenge that businesses face that is driving vendor management is, first, cybersecurity and compliance. With the rise in cyber threats and all the changes in regulatory requirements, there is internally for organizations a much greater focus on ensuring their vendors are meeting the requirements of cybersecurity and these additional compliance standards. And that's very much happening in Australia right now. And once you have this demand of maturity uplift around cybersecurity and compliance, all of a sudden we have a need to have continuous monitoring. And so you need to have systems in place, a vendor management system in place to have that ongoing risk assessments and performance monitoring that, isn't every 2 years, but might be now every quarter. It's really crucial for organizations to manage these, vendor-related risks as well. So when you're outsourcing, there's a lot of risks you inherit. And so you need to have a system that simplifies the data, brings it into a dashboard. Both parties can see the information. And so when you do find yourselves in a quarterly business review, you have the same level of information that you can draw on and then get strategic. So you're not spending an hour and a half debating the information. It's kind of right in front of everybody. So to do that, so you need a vendor management system and other digital tools to help you streamline processes. So that's important. A lot of vendor management platforms now have really got that maturity in. So sometimes I try to coach and mentor organizations to adopt best practice that the vendor management platforms bring versus try to shoehorn some poor practices and just all they're doing is exacerbating their problem, right? That makes, checking performance tracking compliance just so much easier, and you draw on data analytics. There are a lot of data analytics programs and platforms available now that can help get the insights around cost efficiencies and performance and risk profiling. A lot of the larger organizations I work with deploy, P2P systems from SAP called Ariba or Zycus, and there's other, like RSA Archer around is a really big platform that's commonly used for risk in general as well. So it gives you, when you have these systems in place, from technology sourcing, you can do much better decision making. And then last but not least, there is growing maturity around environment and social governance, ESG. So in Australia, there's a larger increasing emphasis around ensuring vendors adhere to ESG in general. So you need vendor management systems, and you need to sort of bring that into technology sourcing up front when you contract, that everyone understands how the 3-year agreement will operate and where an organization is needing this information to satisfy their board requirements as well. So it includes sustainable practices, fair labor standards, and the ethical sourcing as well. That's really important. That really is probably on the top 3 agendas for chief procurement officers that run strategic sourcing.
And that's very impressive to know that how you as well as the whole system has adapted these advancement in line with the technology as well as the needs of the businesses. So, and especially adding on this to your skills to staying ahead of the curve is really very impressive. So thank you so much. So, so you had also engaged with many top companies like I'd seen from your bios that IBM, KPMG, also you had mentioned in your introductions also. So what are the common challenges that you have encountered across this diverse engagement and how you have addressed them? So can you share some lights on that too, please?
Yes, of course. I think despite that there are many best-in-class technology platforms for vendor contract management, one of the ones that I'm in favor with at the minute that I have no alignment with, but I really enjoy their posts and what they're doing is a company called Gatekeeper. What I find is companies are not deploying vendor management systems to support their relationship lifecycle management. They're not deploying systems to do this. They're still leveraging maybe a P2P system or an ad hoc contract management system, but it only is it's sort of there's no joining of systems to bring a dashboard view of risk, of performance, of metrics, of SLA breaches, of contract deliverables. When is a contract expiring? When do you need to give any notice? Things like that are just there's still challenges around these systems that they're not very expensive, mind you, out in the market. However, organizations still use their Google Drives and Excel, believe it or not. The other issue that I find in large organizations and technology in general, unfortunately, sometimes vendor management roles are seen as lower admin roles, and they do not have the strategic empowerment. So they end up, basically becoming part of your job. It's not a full-time job, and that is changing. But when someone has to add on to their role, either being a project management role or a head of role, vendor management, it's not done well. Sometimes sourcing might give a contract owner, which might be a business owner, the responsibility to manage a relationship, deliverables and governance, but they've not been trained. They're not commercial. It's not what their role is. So these are challenges that still are quite common in Australia. And many, many IT managers that are very technical have never had any kind of commercial experience to support and assist vendors and how they can tap into the vendor strategic thinking. They're strategic in their technology domain, but they're still transactionally thinking when it comes to running a commercial relationship. They just don't have that breadth. And they looked at their procurement and strategic sourcing function. They get insights, but again, that cohort are not trained in the life cycle management of a supplier. And so they usually get dragged back into running RFPs. That's where they stop. So that's pretty common challenges: lack of systems, lack of experience, and lack of commercial management. And so there's a misalignment between the delivery, the account or delivery teams and vendors versus who they deal with on a day-to-day basis inside a client. So you're escalating to deal with problems that really should be dealt with at a true vendor management functional layer.
So true. And this all the process as well as the management way as itself, it describes that why you are a trusted advisor and why you are the best-selling author for this vendor management expertise book. Your whole experience and perspective are very much insightful, as well as I can say it gives a very much help to the people who wants to align their businesses in terms of procurement or in terms of client acquisition. So that's wonderful experience you have shared. So looking forward, what trends do you foresee in the vendor management and strategic sourcing over the next 5 years?
I think everyone is watching and being caught by how fast AI and automation is playing in their day-to-day lives. I think AI will play a pretty significant role in streamlining vendor management processes. Things around contract management, risk assessments, and performance monitoring will be all managed by AI, and that's really around the corner. I don't think it's going to be 10 years. I think you'll start to see a lot of the platforms using AI in the next year to 2 years, if not now. And so organizations therefore will need to train their vendor management function teams and people who manage suppliers on how to leverage AI for decision making, right? So that's really key. The use of big data and analytics, of course, that's growing in very large organizations around that, and that'll flow into vendor management decision making, will become more prevalent. And so again, vendor managers will need to learn, interpret, and act on what these data insights will give them. How do you optimize vendor performance, strategic sourcing? And then the flip side is, let's not make it complex. I hope that AI makes it actually simplifies and brings the opportunity for faster, decision making, which is really key because a lot of organizations become paralyzed around some decision making that I've seen. Again, I think cyber, the growing cyber threats. This is becoming far more complex. There'll be an increased emphasis, and so around cybersecurity, data privacy. In Australia, there is a new APRA financial prudential regulation coming out called CPS 230. If you have clients in Australia, that'll be top of mind, working with regulated entities in this space. And so this is all around operational risk maturity, and this is all coming online mid-2025, right? So there will be opportunities around AI to help assist organizations around some of that. I think contracting is going to change as well. I think there's going to be more flexibility around how to accommodate some of these rapid changes in technology and market conditions. That'll be quite exciting. So I'm looking forward to that as well, so we can help our vendor community not get caught up in the slower processes that we bring on them. So but with the rise of all this and with multi-sourcing and not large outsourcing anymore, there's also then a rise of vendor risk. So, there's a real focus in vendor management around what I call vendor risk management. And so we've got to help vendors understand what our requirements are. Again, especially if there's regulation. And there's going to be a shift to, I think, in future, probably more of a total experience across working with vendors as well. So as we bring these AI and data analytics and we get closer and better at working with suppliers, then we'll get more into the experience as well and how that transcribes into the customer experience, into the employee experience, and then into the user experience.
That's so true, sir. And specifically to aligning this on with the evolving landscape of technology, that's a wonderful, strategic vision to help many businesses to go with the current tricks and trends also, as well as to give the client something more other than the routine service providers. So that's a very great insight you have provided. So as a vendor management expert, what tools or methodologies do you use to achieve all these practices into your practices as well as to client organizations?
So now actually what I find myself is inheriting the systems that are in play. So usually I'm parachuted into some sort of mid-cycle strategic issue with a vendor negotiation or vendor relationship. Look, systems that are typically in place, I find Ariba in the procurement function tends to be there. So I go down to the assessment of contractual gaps. Do both parties understand the deliverables and what is being interpreted around that deliverable? Sometimes you'll find that the deal's been done. Everyone who's involved in that deal has moved on. People are now operationalizing this contract, or they're halfway through this contract, is trying to understand what is it that we're trying to do. I tend to focus on gaps, and I tend to break down gaps and get a couple of wins to bring trust and closeness to the vendor. Let's not boil the ocean. A lot of people go in and alarm and have all these issues where you need to break down things. So for me, it's a relationship. I started the relationship working through perceptions and needs, and then I try to right-size any contract deliverables that might not be right because the business has moved. And that become more apparent as AI comes into play. I talked about adaptive contracts. So what adaptive means, you need to be able to right-size contracts on the fly and what that means. Typical issues, they all lack vendor management experience. Where possible, I try to run an RFI, not an RFP, an RFI, to educate executives and stakeholders and CIOs what is in the market and what best-in-class vendor management solutions look like and what they can bring. So, if you don't know, you don't know, and you need to find this out. So attend events, attend conferences. It's good to get out there. Like I said earlier, I'm not affiliated with a lot of, I don't earn any commissions from these best-in-class systems like a gatekeeper, but I try to use them as an opportunity to show what a best-in-class system can bring. And that's part of the problem. So visibility around what's available, you got to start there. And, some CIOs just think it's, they have their systems in place, but it's dysfunctional. It's really not working. So for me, I try to help my colleagues and friends in Australian corporates to implement vendor and contract management systems, which help them mature how the processes are running.
That's great. So your practical solutions are undoubtedly a great asset to your clients, right? So, adding on these only, if I ask that you have worked with so many organizations, so looking ahead, what emerging trends, as you have said earlier also that AI is gonna, the trendsetter in the nearby future. So in lining with the vendor management and strategic sourcing, how is yourself as well as the whole vendor management expertise is preparing to address these changes into your business life?
So it really comes down to, in my experience, who is owning and running vendor management as a function. And why I say that is because, again, because I've spent pretty much half of my career either being hired by a CIO or a CPO, they got very different agendas. Okay, CPOs, mostly from my experience, report into the finance CFO. So for them, their focus will be focused around cost out. No matter how we talk about supply relation management, and we want to go beyond cost out, the focus is cost out because they're reporting to a CFO, right? A CIO, they're looking at cybersecurity, regulated industries, and they've got, a lot of demand around risk, cybersecurity, and compliance. So for me, and then there's the board and there's the piggy in the middle being the COO or the CEO, who is finding themselves with regulated regulation. Maybe they need to focus more on material suppliers a material supplier is someone who's performing a majority of their function that they could do themselves internally, but they've elected to go outsourced. And there's a big shift in Australia around material suppliers as well. So strategic sourcing really is affected by who the functional owner and their needs and agenda, and the industry that they may be either regulated or unregulated. At the end of the day, it's really easy where I see transactional mindsets trying to be strategic. And what I find a lot of time is lost. And then there's a race to the end, and they just try to cobble something together. And this is still an issue in Australia. So strategically, I try to bring forward the relationships with the best-in-class suppliers and try to work with executive assistants to break in time into executive time, diaries to bring forward very quickly what can be done and what good looks like, and to inspire them to get to be that way, and then to show them that the effort isn't as great as they think. So again, let's not boil the ocean. Pick one project, pick one vendor, drive the success, and that in itself, the example will drive success across the organization.
That's a great insight and a wonderful way to manage the advancement, ensuring that continued success also. So thank you so much for providing these wonderful insights on the future trends and how to manage that too. So now, sir, as I'm going to close this question and answer session with one of my favorite question is, if you want to summarize the whole vendor management expertise in a one-liner, or if you can say that one advice to the client organization that how the vendor management should be, what it would be?
I believe in finding time to be mentored by an expert or an expert organization in the field that is not influenced by the culture that you're working in, to bring events or roundtables together where you're not in anybody's building, but a Switzerland building, your favorite restaurant or cafe, and to basically plan out how you can grow and have a very trusted relationship. It always, for me, systems and processes are important to meet, the business side of what we're trying to achieve. But the one-liner for me is start with supplier relationships, start with mentoring, and grow the individuals to be authentic, and where they're not authentic, that they can be honest and in a sense of genuine and have a growth plan. That's what it comes down to. There's a lot of organizations and individuals are working at what I call level one thinking. They're in fear, or there's some part of fear in the day-to-day work. And so they just do what they have to survive. And being a technologist, and I love innovation. I love what we do. I just want people to have an entrepreneurial spirit, and that's where I come from. So in your hectic, chaotic week, you need to do that. So I'll just weave in to be a high performer. You need to set up your time in your week to have some micro resilience built into your time. You need to look after your well-being and your mental health. So I weave that into all my engagements as well, Sanal, because I like to reverse burnout. I can see burnout, and unfortunately, I find a lot of burnout amongst my vendor community as well. And so if we can be healthy and well, then that will flow into how we work with internal and external organizations and stakeholders. So I hope that helps.
That's so great, so wonderful, innovative initiatives, and collectively, bring the experience together to inspire more, to do more. And I really appreciate your unique perspective on, integrating this professional development as well as highlighting the importance of business needs in a unique way by doing the identified and necessary alignment with the needs. So that's a wonderful approach you have shared, sir. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, and for your generous sharing of expertise as well as experience with us. And this is all about today's podcast. And we are really grateful to have you today with us as a adfartech Venture podcast. And we really look forward to applying these valuable lessons in the value we provide to each and every audiences that they are listening. So thank you so much, sir, for joining this podcast. And thank you so much, audience, for being with us to listen this podcast episode. If you want to know more about Agostino Carrideo, just do follow him on the LinkedIn, and you will find a lot of informations with his vendor management expertise. And this is all about today's episode. I hope, sir, you also have enjoyed this episode and the conversation with us.
Thank you.
So grateful of you. Thank you so much for joining this